What if the kid who held the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 consecutive weeks grew up farming sweet potatoes in Pampanga, legally blind, abandoned by his father, mocked by his own teachers for the way he held a book? Not just 14 weeks. His group ran the chart for 26 straight. No act in the modern era had done that. His name is Alan Pineda Lindo. You know him as APL.AP. And there is a real chance you have never heard his actual story. Here's what most people know about the Black Eyed Peas. Where is the love? I Got a Feeling. Fergie, Will.I.Am. They sold 80 million records worldwide. They headlined the Super Bowl halftime show in 2011. 3 back-to-back #1 hits. You know the sound. You know the name. But ask someone who APL.DAP actually is, where he is from, what his life looked like before Los Angeles, and most people go quiet. He is a founding member of one of the biggest pop acts in history, and his origin story has been almost completely invisible to the global audience that has been listening to his voice for 30 years. Here's what they do not tell you. The Filipino kid in the group did not coast. He walked a path that most people would never survive. Sapang Bato is a barangay in Angeles City, Pampanga, about 80 kilometers north of Manila, in the shadow of where Clark Air Base used to stand. That is where Alan Pineda Lindo was born on November 28, 1974. His father was an African-American serviceman stationed at Clark. He left the family shortly after Alan was born. His mother, Christina Pineda, raised Alan and his 6 younger siblings alone, farming sweet potatoes, corn, sugarcane, and rice. Alan made a 45-minute jeepney ride to and from school every day. Not every kid made it, but Alan had a condition that made everything harder. He had nystagmus, a neurological disorder that causes the eyes to move involuntarily and rapidly. It left him legally blind without thick corrective lenses. In class, he was terrified to read aloud because he had to hold the book so close to his face. Other kids laughed. Teachers laughed too. His dream, if you could call it that, was to become an engineer or a nurse. But that felt impossible in a classroom where the people who were supposed to believe in you were the ones making fun. Then, when Alan was 11 years old, $1 changed his life. Literally $1 a day. The Pearl S. Buck Foundation, a U.S. nonprofit that helps abandoned or orphaned American children, matched him with a sponsor through their $1-a-day program. The sponsor was a Los Angeles lawyer named Joe Ben Hudgens. Alan traveled to the United States for the first time at age 11, initially for eye treatment. He visited Disneyland. Something shifted in him. The understanding that a different kind of life was real, not just imagined. It took 3 more years of paperwork, waiting, and uncertainty. But at age 14, Joe Ben Hudgens officially adopted him. Alan Pineda Lindo moved to Los Angeles with almost nothing. At John Marshall High School in Los Angeles, Alan Pineda met a student named William Adams, who happened to be the nephew of his foster father's roommate. A coincidence so small, so random, that it almost does not count as a fact. They became best friends. William became Will.I.Am. Together with Taboo and a rotating cast of collaborators, they formed the Black Eyed Peas in 1995. For nearly a decade, they were a critically respected underground hip-hop act, appreciated in certain circles, invisible to mainstream radio. 2 albums, real craft, very little commercial traction. This was not a quick success story. Then came 2003. The group added singer Fergie and released their 3rd album, Elefunk. The lead single dropped on May 12, 2003, Where is the Love? Featuring Justin Timberlake. It hit #1 in the United Kingdom and Australia. It peaked at #8 in the United States, their first ever top 10 hit. It charted in 13 countries simultaneously. Elefunk sold 8.5 million copies worldwide. In a single release cycle, the Black Eyed Peas went from underground to global. But 2003 was just the opening move. 6 years later, in 2009, the group released I Got a Feeling. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it stayed there for 14 consecutive weeks, the longest-running #1 of that entire year. Combined with Boom Boom Pow, which preceded it at the top, the Black Eyed Peas held the Billboard Hot 100's #1 position for 26 consecutive weeks straight. No act in the chart's modern era had done that before. I Got a Feeling eventually became the first song in U.S. history to sell over 7 million digital copies. The kid who once held a book 2 inches from his face so he could read, and was laughed at for it, had his voice on the best-selling digital single of a generation. Here's the part that almost never gets covered. APL. app did not just take the money and disappear. He turned around. He founded the APL. Foundation International, focused on education and opportunity for Filipino children. He has spent years pushing original Filipino music onto the global stage, publicly championing OPM artists like Illist Morena, Flo G, and Glock 9 at a time when international media was not paying attention. In 2006, while the Black Eyed Peas were at their commercial peak, he wrote and performed Bebot, a song rapped entirely in Filipino, celebrating the Philippines and its diaspora. It was a declaration. This language and this culture belong on a global pop stage. In early 2026, that song went viral again on TikTok, with users worldwide using it for makeup transformation videos, 20 years after it was recorded. He is now running a carbon credit reforestation project across the Philippines, working toward planting 100 million coconut trees. He built a digital platform called Earth Sama that guides farmers through planting and maintenance via smartphone, photo verification, GPS tracking, seedling delivery, and converts sustainable practices into carbon credits. The ambition is staggering. The execution is already running. And in 2026, he is working on a new solo album. In an interview with Billboard Philippines, he said he made it because he wanted to bring back the love for music. If you want to hear what that sounds like, the way it was built to be heard, every layer, every dynamic, you need the right setup. A quality pair of wireless noise-canceling headphones makes all the difference. The link to what we recommend is in the description below. The reason people who discover APL.D.app's full story become genuinely obsessed is because it is not a standard celebrity arc. It is something rarer, a story about a country that the global music industry overlooked for decades, and one person from that country who got inside the machine, not to assimilate, but to redirect it. He never stopped rapping in Filipino. He never stopped saying where he was from. He kept the thread intact the entire time, even when it would have been easier and more commercially predictable to let it go. Here's the debate I want you to take into the comments. APLD-AP has spent his entire career straddling two worlds, the global pop machine and a Filipino cultural identity he has refused to leave behind. Some people argue he should have made that identity the center of his brand from day one, led with it, built the whole story around it, made sure every interview mentioned Pampanga, that maybe the Black Eyed Peas would have opened a door for Filipino music globally 20 years earlier. Others say the point is exactly the opposite, that the anonymity of the global pop machine is what gave him access, and that access is what gave him leverage. That if he had been the Filipino member of the BEP first, he would have been boxed in before he could build anything. So here's the question. Would APL.D.AP have had more impact if his Filipino identity had been front and center from the beginning? Or did the invisibility inside a global pop act actually protect what he built? Leave your take below. I want to see this one run. If you made it this far, subscribe. We drop stories like this every week. Follow at Stardom on Instagram and TikTok. See you in the next one.